Steven Universe was pretty incredible, but how was your relationship with your father?
Who the starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
While having both of your parents can be considered to be a blessing in itself, the importance of having a decent father figure in our lives while growing up cannot be understated. And that's coming from someone who grew up without one for the majority of their life.
I can't stay here and humor you. I have to be there for my son.
You're late.
I feel like this is a hot take, but Greg was kind of a terrible dad. I am guessing that the reason that most of us feel weird about calling Greg out for doing things like not sending Steven to school, not ever bringing him to a library, and not even having the decency to take him in for regular checkups is simply because it's clear that he was at least a loving father who was always trying his best. The man is immune to criticism because he has the infamous "hat in the right place" syndrome.
You messed with my head!
No, I didn't mean for... I just wanted to live with my son again.
Get out of here! Go on! Get the hell out of here!
Yeah, Greg might have been emotionally absent from Steven's life throughout the duration of the original series, but at least his heart was in the right place. Yeah, Greg might have chosen to keep Steven isolated from the outside world to such an extent that he never even met other members of his own family or hung out with other humans until he was 13, but at least his heart was in the right place. Yeah, Greg might have lied to Steven about having a broken leg for an entire day, resulting in him losing one of his most useful abilities for nearly 2 seasons, but at least his heart was in the right place.
Call the police.
Oh, I'm way ahead of you, Mr. Universe.
No!
Look, we're not only here to judge Greg's parenting during the original series. Let's also take a closer look at the way that Greg chose to handle parenting during Steven Universe's future. Maybe it can be argued that he was reformed as a father after Steven managed to establish peace across the universe. Nope, no, he somehow got even worse.
Is this where our name comes from?
Yes, exactly.
You took it from a song?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Forget about being emotionally absent, now he's just straight up telling our boy Steven that he was better off as a kid than his father was. Which is still probably one of the craziest statements that anyone has ever said on the entire show.
Trust me, you're better off than I was.
What?
Everyone's trauma is real to them, and this isn't the tragic childhood Olympics or anything, but there's no way that Greg's childhood was comparable to anything that Steven had to go through on a bi-weekly basis.
My problem isn't that I'm a gem. My problem is I'm a universe!
He's out of line, but he's right.
Parenting is one of the most complicated subjects to cover because it's all about perspective. I bet that some of you could genuinely convince me that Greg was a good father even after I've shown you how strongly I feel about the idea that he wasn't. Because that's called being human. We're constantly growing, evolving, and changing our perspectives.
I'm proud of you.
What?
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
Believe it or not, but we actually got a ton of insight into the bizarre way that Greg chose to raise Steven during the series' official run of comics. Created by Rebecca Sugar herself, Steven Universe issue number 35 not only gave us much needed insight into Greg's parenting style, but it also blessed us with more insight into Bismuth's deeply chaotic mind as well, when she accidentally creates one of the greatest threats that the citizens of Beat City has ever faced. The comic issue being set after Steven and the Crystal Gems leave the Earth in order for them to appeal to White Diamond on Homeworld, opens with Greg holding Cat Steven at the car wash when Mr. Fryman pulls up in his broken down van, hoping to get Greg to keep it from falling apart. Greg lets Mr. Fryman know that Pearl is usually the one who fixes his van when it gets torn down by gem activity, but she was currently off planet with Steven, and I'm sorry to break the flow of his comic so soon, but I just have to ask, what gem did that to Mr. Fryman's van? It's also incredibly surreal that the citizens of Beat City are now finally acknowledging the fact that gems exist. They usually just blissfully act like nothing is going on no matter how bad things got.
Sorry about that!
What?
Anyway, looking for the next best gem for the job, Greg introduces Mr. Fryman to Bismuth. Greg, deeply concerned with the ruthless way that Bismuth was handling Mr. Fryman's van, decides to give her a little bit of space while she worked her magic. The following day, when Mr. Fireman passes by the car wash to pick up his van, he notices that it looked different, to say the least. It turns out that Bismuth decided to add a fully functional laser light cannon to the vehicle, causing Mr. Fireman to look on the bright side by referencing the fact that he'd finally be able to defend himself from homeward handships, which is a lie. Bismuth doesn't correct him here either, but laser light cannons are useless against modern day handships. Bismuth, satisfied with her work on Mr. Fireman's van, decides to wander around the boardwalk with Cat Steven Stephen and Greg, in hopes of giving even more citizens of Beat City the means of defending themselves from future gem attacks. Despite Greg's protests, the team runs into Jenny, who lets Bismuth know that she needed help fixing her car's headlights. After talking about possible upgrades to her vehicle, Jenny lets Bismuth know that she wasn't exactly in favor of installing 2 laser light cannons to the front of her car, leading them to come into an agreement of installing a giant weaponized claw into the vehicle instead. Bismuth reveals that her new plan was to transform the citizens of Beat City, soon followed by every other human being on the planet, into the new army of the Crystal Gems. Greg mentions the fact that teenagers like Jenny shouldn't be brought into the homeward conflict because of a high level of risk, leading Bismuth to calling Greg out for allowing Stephen to continue to fight alongside the other gems. Greg defends himself by telling Bismuth that Stephen knows what he's getting himself into because he's been training, and that's just not how it works. Stephen is 13 years old during this comic issue, so I think it's safe to say that he definitely does not know what he's getting himself into. But moving past Greg's awful reasoning for a moment, I actually really love Bismuth's idea of giving the citizens of Beat City the option to fight alongside the Crystal Gems. She isn't forcing anyone into anything, she's quite literally just giving anyone who's interested the option of gaining a means of defending themselves against the homeward invasion. Problem is, she keeps bringing up the town state after the recent encounter with the diamonds as her reasoning for coming to this conclusion, constantly claiming that the town was in a mess after everything that went down, and we know that this just isn't true. The diamonds attacked the Crystal Gems near the temple and the cluster emerged near the barn, meaning that it also didn't affect Beat City, so what is Bismuth talking about? You saw the town, it's a mess after the diamonds showed up. No, we saw the town, and even in this very comic issue, it looks perfectly fine.
You don't want to test me, girl. I'll pass every time.
Anyway, after Bismuth's argument with Greg over the ethics of allowing the citizens of Beat City to join in on the fight against Homeworld, she storms off in search of finding more people in need of mechanical help, leading Bismuth to introducing herself to Mr. Smiley, and he hilariously agrees to let her install rocket launchers around Funland. Alright, that actually makes sense.
Steven, you're banned from all the rides forever!
Several consecutive explosions in the center of town result in Bismuth learning from an extremely out-of-breath Greg that Mr. Fryman was accidentally firing high-powered rockets all over the boardwalk, putting all of the citizens of Beat City in mortal danger. Greg gets through to Bismuth after she realizes that the citizens of Beat City don't have any experience when it comes to actually handling powerful weapons, leading to her comparing her mindset to Homeworld's. It's worth reiterating that Bismuth wasn't forcing anyone to become soldiers. She was just giving them the option of joining in on the battle for the Earth, at a time when many of them were expressing just how frustrated they all were. But most of these comic issues are strictly only 24 pages long, so we don't have time for nuance.
Bismuth is so funny.
I don't know. Same joke twice?
Well, it'll be really funny if she does it a third time.
With a rampaging tank being driven by someone who's never been inside of a tank before, Bismuth rushes into action and absorbs the impact of the incoming missiles in hopes of reducing the damage done to the actual environment. She then heroically jumps in front of Mr. Fryman's new van, grabbing onto it in order for him to get enough time to escape the death trap. Attempting to end the rampage as quickly as possible, Bismuth decides to brutally suplex her hard work, putting an end to its short reign of terror. Greg and Bismuth would spend the following days repairing the damage done to Beat City before Bismuth would be called to Homeworld along with Lapis and Peridot as backup by a broken and dehydrated Watermelon Steven. Greg's parenting style during Steven Universe was formed as a result of his trauma during his childhood. He lied to Steven in order for them to spend more time together during the episode Dear Old Dad, instead of simply asking him to do so because Greg didn't want to become his parents. Nobody is perfect, not even parents, and while I think that it's reasonable for us to be able to criticize bad parenting, I can't in good conscience say that Greg wasn't truly trying to give Steven anything else other than the childhood that he wished he could have gotten himself.